what's good? It's your boy, Mixtape Moth, and today I'm gonna hit y'all with a review of the Public Enemy album, What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down. Let's get to it. Public Enemy is a legendary rap group hailing from Long Island, New York. They are simply one of the most influential groups in hip-hop history. Public Enemy's most critically acclaimed album is their classic, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back from 1988. Now, two of my favorite songs from that seminal body of work are Rebel Without a Pause and Night of the Living Bassheads. But they came back in October of 2020 to release their 15th studio album entitled What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down. This album was recorded on Def Jam, which makes it their first release on that label since their very solid He Got Game soundtrack from 1998. Now, in 2020, there were many artists who dropped songs that reflected the social, political, and racial unrest of the very volatile year, but Public Enemy, they were the originators of that politically charged and conscious rap, so it's very fitting that they came back to shed some light on these topics. Although it has to be noted that this project doesn't contain all new songs. In fact, about half of them were from their 2017 album, Nothing Is Quick in the Desert, which I never heard, nor do I recall hearing about it even dropping, to keep it a buck. So the songs from that 2017 release are Yesterday Man, Beat Them All, Smash the Crowd If You Can't Join Them, Beat Them, Toxic, and Rest in Beats. But that really wasn't a huge issue for me since I never heard the 2017 release. However, if you had heard that album, then I can see why you might be a little disappointed. Although the good news is that the new songs that they recorded are pretty dope and a lot better than the 2017 ones in my opinion. But with that being said, let me hit y'all with this track by track breakdown. When the Grid Goes Down is an intro featuring George Clinton talking over this psychedelic funk type of instrumental. It just sets the tone for this grid theme and what all happens when it goes down. The actual song Grid also has vocals from George Clinton. This track features Cypress Hill, which is appropriate because the chorus here somewhat borrows from their 1993 single, When the Shit Goes Down. But the crux of this song is about preparing for when the grid eventually gets shut down and all of our technology abandons us completely. Chuck D states, folks might have to pick up a book, pick up a pen. Now that's a scary thought for some, right? I mean, you got to ask yourself, how long can you realistically go without checking something as innocuous as your Twitter or IG account? But I thought this was a cool and thought-provoking track. Not one of my favorites, but I do like Chuck D's verse and B Real's appearance. It has that East Coast meets West Coast 90s nostalgia going on. What follows is easily the best song on the album, State of the Union, Shut the Fuck Up, which was produced by DJ Premier. The drums are knocking and the sample is soulful yet eerie. It has that classic boom bap primo feel. But there's also an urgency to this beat that is fitting for Chuck D to unleash his lyrical slaughter on this clown Donald Trump. I, for one, am perfectly okay with Chuck D going in on this fool. I don't think that Primo could have laced Public Enemy with a doper beat in 2020, to be honest. I think this was a fire political song. After this, we get another highlight with Public Enemy #1. This features two early golden era Def Jam groups, the Beastie Boys and Run DMC. I wish this would have featured LL Cool J, although I thought that Run and DMC had strong verses. DMC's verse was actually hard, but his voice doesn't have that commanding presence it once had. However, this is a great song if you are a fan of 80s rap veterans reuniting over a classic instrumental. Up next, we have another anti-Trump record entitled Toxic. Well, Chuck also raps about some other things too, but he makes sure to get in plenty of jabs at the incompetent Orange Man. I like the thunderous and lo-fi boom bap production here. It just makes this track feel really rugged and hardcore. The only questionable part to this song was when Chuck D said he wasn't a fan of HBO's The Wire. Chuck, I'm with you on everything but that. I mean, The Wire is one of the greatest shows of all time. The following song, Yesterday Man, finds Public Enemy looking at the trends in rap from its inception to present day over this rock-tinged beat. Chuck D is obviously not in favor of some of the more recent trends, which might make him come across as an older head, but I don't really think he cares if he's viewed as an older head. This song was cool as it had somewhat of a humorous quality to it, but I wasn't really a fan of the rock-styled production, to be honest. What we have next is the second best song on the album, Fight the Power Remix 2020. This time around, Public Enemy recruits Nas, Rhapsody, Questlove, and YG to give this classic song a fresh 2020 perspective. Interestingly enough, however, not much has changed in this country since Chuck D wrote this song back in 1989, because black people in America have encountered the same racism 30 plus years later. I really thought everyone brought their A game here. This 2020 remix is a strong follow-up to the original, in my opinion. What you have are essentially three different generations of rappers coming together on one song. Public Enemy representing the first part of the golden era sound. Nas and Black Thought represent the 90s or the second phase of the golden era, while Rhapsody and YG represent the current generation of rappers. Obviously, Rhapsody seemed like the logical choice to have given her socially conscious lyricism, and YG also makes sense considering his Fuck Donald Trump song was a political record, even though it was on a more gangster rap album. Tracks like Beat Them All, If You Can't Join 'Em, Beat 'Em, and Go At 'Em are more rock rap fusion songs. Now, I know PE has been doing those kinds of records for years now, but I've personally never been a huge fan of that particular sound. So sonically, the more rock influenced songs just really aren't for me. They might not be bad songs if you like that kind of sonic vibe, but that's never really been my cup of tea. I didn't even like the more rock influenced songs on the Run the Jewels album either. Public Enemy ends the record with 2 tracks dedicated to those who have passed on, whether it be rappers like on the creatively titled Rest in Beats, or personal friends like on the Flavor Flav solo RIP Black Cat. While the majority of this album contained more explosive funk and aggressive boom bap, these last 2 songs showcase the mellow and melancholy side to the project. But I think these 2 songs were dope in their own right. Overall, I think this album is good, worth checking out. There were 2 songs that I found myself playing a lot. State of the Union, Shut the Fuck Up, and Fight the Power 2020 remix. There were a few other songs that I thought were solid, but this album wasn't without some skips, unfortunately. Not because of the messaging. I did like the concepts and themes to these records, but the production was a little dry at times. I mean, I honestly could have done without the plethora of rock sounding beats. Now, I know Public Enemy has dabbled in that style to some degree, and they are an actual band. So it makes sense that's the direction that they chose, but those style of records never really moved me like that. However, it's great that they are back, and hopefully this album did not get swept under the rug too much with all the music that dropped in 2020. I would say that if you're not familiar with Public Enemy, but you love a group like Run the Jewels, then you should definitely check out the originators of that sound, especially given the current political climate is only right. My favorite songs include State of the Union, Shut the Fuck Up, Public Enemy #1, Fight the Power Remix 2020, and Rest in Beats. Let me know what you thought about this album in the comment section below. What should I check out next? It's your boy, Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. Public Enemy, when the grid goes down, 1.